Welcome to our Festival Foods virtual tour presented by the Viterbo University Junior Dietetics. So here's just a quick outline. I wanted to start off by saying thank you for joining us today as we talk you through the grocery store. We hope this gives you a better idea of different ways in which you can make healthier choices the next time you go shopping. We will be going through each of the sections of the store from the wall of values all the way to the wine and spirits section. Before heading into the store, it is important to know that Festival Foods has a wonderful mission statement to make sure you have the best shopping experience possible. Not only will we be talking about the store itself, we will also be giving tips and tricks on ways to ensure you go into your next shopping trip fully prepared. So the mission statement at Festival Foods is to develop a team of associates dedicated to providing our guests with a clean store, friendly people, quality products, exceptional value, and enjoyable shopping experience. Festival Foods tries their best to do everything they can to make sure their shoppers are satisfied with all aspects of their shopping trip. They have this statement hanging on the wall as customers walk into the store.
Okay, so this is Kristen, and the first thing you walk into when you enter Festival is the wall of values. This section has coupons and the weekly deals that are currently going on. The deals go from Wednesday to Tuesday. This wall of values is, in addition to Festival website, can be used to find deals and save money on your grocery trip. You can also be notified about the weekly ads if you subscribe to the weekly ads. The ad will then be sent to you every time a new one comes out. Why is the wall of values the first thing you walk into? The wall of values is the first thing you see when you walk into Festival because these are the deals that are currently going on and they want to catch your eye. And so you can look at them and take advantage of them. So depending on what the sale is, you can pick up some of the items and even base some of your meals around them. For example, if they're having a big sale on ground beef and green beans, you might plan to pick up these and make meatloaf and green beans for supper one night. When looking for and purchasing items from the wall of values, it is important to try and avoid processed foods and instead look for healthier options, which are better to incorporate into your diet. Overall, the wall of values is a really good thing for Festival. It is important that you are aware of and always on the lookout for the new deals. This can help you save a lot of money in the long run.
So after the wall of values, you will walk towards the produce section, and the first thing you will see is this fresh produce guide. And this can be found on the right next to the produce section. And don't be afraid to take advantage of this item. It has a lot of educational materials within it, such as recipes, nutrient information, and when the items are in season. If you are not shopping in the store, you can find a lot of this information online, but Festival Foods does not have this exact produce guide on their website. They do have a lot of other helpful information located underneath their meal idea tab.
So this is Hannah. So about the produce section, there are a number of barriers that might stop somebody from shopping in this section, such as the cost, the taste, or not knowing how to cook them, or their shelf life. Something that can really help with cost is buying your produce, your fruits and veggies in season rather than out of season. There's also a lot of different ways to cook your fruits and veggies, which can also help with the taste. So some examples, you could grill them as kebabs, blend fruits and veggies into smoothies, add your vegetables into a soup, or roast them in the oven. So those are just a couple of different ways to cook them. And then extending their shelf life is really important too. Typically, you'll want to eat your produce within 1 to 3 days of purchasing, but you can extend that a little bit. So if you are storing your fruits or veggies in the fridge, it's important to store them in perforated bags, so bags with little small holes in them, and then also storing them in different compartments of the fridge if that's possible, That's going to limit the effects of the ethylene gas that the fruits and veggies produce, so helping them not ripen too quickly. And then some fruits and veggies actually should be stored on the counter rather than the fridge. And if you are storing them on the counter, it's important to keep them away from the sunlight.
Hi everyone, it's Audrey. So I'm going to be talking about the natural and organic section of the store. So starting with organic items, in the produce section of the store, you can find a designated refrigerated area for organic produce. So here you'll find organic fresh fruit, vegetables, and herbs. And in the natural section of the store, you can find other refrigerated items such as organic dairy products, free-range eggs, and dairy-free products such as vegan milks, cheeses, and yogurts. Also, here you can find organic tofu and even natural mock meats like deli slices and plant-based burgers. On the other side of that refrigerated section, you can see the natural shelf. So this includes items that are packaged like snacks free of preservatives, such as fruit and nut bars, chips, candy, and more. Here you'll also find many gluten-free packaged items like crackers and cookies. Close to the natural aisle, you can find the bulk bin section. So in this section, you'll find a wide variety of items, including dried fruit, whole grains, granola, chocolate covered and plain nuts, seeds, dry beans and lentils, and even freshly ground peanut and almond butters. In this area, you're able to manually fill up containers with however much product you desire. So utilizing this section can help eliminate food waste by only buying exactly what you need. It can reduce plastic usage if you bring your own containers, and it ultimately saves you money. So something to remember about this section is that not every product is automatically healthy. There are healthy options here, like I mentioned, grains, nuts, beans, etc. But there are also granolas with added sugar, chocolates, candies, and other items like that. So these types of products will have ingredient labels, so just be sure to read them before buying.
Okay, it's Maggie again. So before we keep going through the tour, I have a quick pop quiz for you. So true or false, it is cheaper to buy per ounce for bulk items. And that is true.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire and I'm going to be talking about the deli inside of Festival and what it has to offer. So there are many different meal options available at the deli, with items like sliced meats and cheeses, pre-made salads like potato salad or chicken salad, as well as different fried options or pre-made protein options like meatloaf or ribs. Although these pre-made meal options are more affordable and convenient, they are not always the healthiest options, and I recommend that you buy these with caution or pair with a fruit or vegetable option as well. Some of the healthier options available in the deli would be the rotisserie chicken, fish options, or even the sushi. The deli is usually always located along the back wall inside of Festival, and it also has full ingredient lists for all the products in the deli located in a binder behind the counter. They do their best to avoid cross-contaminations and follow all the proper sanitary procedures. However, they make note that this cannot always be guaranteed with certain allergens.
Hello, this is Laura. So after you browse the homemade displays, you may find yourself in the meat and seafood department. Here you will find a variety of beef, pork, chicken, salmon, cod, tuna, and more. All fresh and packaged right in front of you. It goes without saying that meat and seafood are good sources of protein. They can also be good sources of nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, iron, and B12. With that said, meat also contains unhealthier nutrient components, such as cholesterol and saturated fats. It's healthier for you to lower your red meat consumption and look for leaner meats like chicken and fish. Some fish options that are high in healthy fats and low in Not so good things like mercury are salmon, canned tuna, and mackerel. Be aware of the price difference between each type and cut of meat. Typically, leaner meats such as chicken, turkey, and fish are higher priced, but they are also healthier. To save money, eat smaller portion sizes and choose plant-based protein options when you can. Here's a good rule of thumb for portion sizing a 3-ounce serving of meat. Your meat portion should be the size of your palm and as thick as your hand when flat. Another way you can save money and still get protein in your diet is to include plant-based sources. You can put beans in your chili, lentils in a savory stew, nuts and seeds sprinkled on salads, eggs scrambled into a stir fry, and so much more. Last but not least, here are a few food safety tips for buying and cooking meat. Only buy seafood fresh if you're looking to eating it that day. Fish in the displays have been thawed and it is not safe to refreeze them again. If you plan on eating it sometime in the future, buy the fish frozen. For cooking fish, cook it to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. And when cooking most meats, make sure to cook it to 165 degrees.
Hello all, my name is Sierra, and I'll be beginning with the center aisles. People spend a lot of time here because there's things like bread, chips, boxed snacks, cereal and oatmeal, canned goods, condiments and sauces, baking items, boxed dinners, pasta, and so much more here, which brings me to my next topic, which is how to read a food label. So a lot of the different foods inside these center aisles may not be the healthiest choices. So I'm gonna go over kind of how to differ between if it would be a good choice or not so healthy choice. So beginning with the serving size, which you see in the blue, that is what people usually eat, not what they should eat. So they just kind of are starting to tell people calories based on the normal portion size, just because a lot of people don't really listen to the portion sizes. Also look at the servings per container and pay attention to how the calories change the more you eat. So for example, on this food label here on the slide, there's 4 servings per container. So if you eat the whole box, you have to multiply those 280 calories times 4 to get what the entire box has for calories inside of it. And then also there's calories per serving listed is what we see in pink. So that's 280 calories per 1 cup. And then going down a little bit further is total sugars. So the total sugars is natural sugars like from fruit or milk plus added sugars. So as you can see on this specific label, there are 6 grams of sugars total and no added sugars. Therefore, all 6 grams of total sugar on this food label are from natural sources. It's also important to focus on our macronutrients, so protein, carbs, and fats. You can see those listed on there as well as some of our micronutrients, such as vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, and then also fiber. And then finally, when you're looking at a food label, pay attention to the % daily value. So that tells you the percentage of daily value for each nutrient in a serving, which helps us determine if a food is high or low in a nutrient. So as you can see on this label, there's 25% of our daily adequate calcium. And then that brings me to my next slide, which is what is a whole grain. So like listed before, a lot of the foods in the center aisles are made from grains and things like that. So it's important to look for 100% whole grain products because per my plate, half of your plate should be whole grains. And there's any food from wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or other cereal grain is a grain product. Bread, pastas, breakfast cereal, tortillas, they're all examples of the grain group. And then the grains are divided into 2 different subgroups, whole grain and refined grains. So a whole grain contains the entire grain kernel, as you can see in the middle picture, the bran, germ, and endosperm. Examples of whole grains include whole wheat flour, bulgur or cracked wheat, oatmeal, and brown rice. And then the other subgroup of grains is refined grains, which have been milled. And that's a process that removes the bran and the germ. This is done to give grains a finer texture and improve their shelf life, but it also removes things like dietary fiber, iron, and many B vitamins. Some examples of our refined grains are white flour, degermed cornmeal, white bread, and white rice. Most refined grains, though, are enriched, which means that the B vitamins and iron are added back after processing, but fiber is not usually added back. So fiber is something that we need in our diet, so just kind of reading food labels and looking for how much fiber is in a product. And then finally, why are whole grains important? It's because they offer nutrients like complex carbohydrates, B vitamins, fiber, and minerals like iron. These help lower cholesterol, our risk for cardiovascular disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. The vitamins and minerals also help our body release energy from our macronutrients, make new blood cells, and helps keep our bones and muscles strong. So make sure you are following My Plate's guidelines and make sure at least half of your plate is whole grains. And then finally, it's important to limit things that may lead to adverse health effects. This includes added sugars, which should be less than 10% of your daily calorie intake, saturated fats, which is also less than 10% of your daily intake, and finally sodium, which should be less than 2,300 milligrams a day. And then while looking for healthier options, again, just making sure that you're paying attention to those added sugars, saturated fats, and sodium.
Hi all, this is Nicole here. It's important when we're perusing the dairy aisle to not skip this section, as most adults require a minimum of 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day to prevent deficiency, and dairy products are a great source. It's important to keep in mind that milk and the different percentages you see on the milk gallons and cartons are not referring to the nutritional content, but rather the fat content. So a cup of milk will have generally about the same amount of protein, calcium, and vitamin D as the next one, but it's referring to whether or not it has more or less fat. Fat-free milk is appropriate to serve for most children aged 2 and older, and this extends out to adulthood. And that's because we're going to be talking about nutrient-dense foods. Nutrient-dense foods provide vitamins, minerals, and other health-promoting components that Sierra was mentioning that have little or no added sugar, less saturated fat, and sodium. And this is why the new dietary guidelines for Americans recommends that consuming dairy products such as fat-free or low-fat milk, yogurt, and cheeses, as well as the lactose-free versions and fortified soy beverages and yogurt as well. Speaking to the alternatives that are out there, perhaps you're lactose intolerant, or if you're wanting to take a different stance because of your ecological footprint that the dairy industry might make, there are other options such as cashew milk and almond milk and soy products and lactose-free milk. Note that these are not considered dairy products. However, they are also good providers of calcium and vitamin D. So when you're looking at the label, ensure that those products are low in the saturated fat, as well as fortified adequately to compare with the calcium and vitamin D content. Again, with dairy, there's other options such as cheese, butter, and yogurt. When thinking about butter or selecting, try to select an unsalted over the salted. This gives you more control of your sodium intake when you're incorporating butter that might be called for in a recipe. Also, err on the side of caution, as most cheeses are high in saturated fat content. Reduced fat cheeses are an option. Speaking to yogurt, try selecting products that are low in sugar and fat and higher in protein. Please note that plain yogurts will not have added sugar in them. This is a great option if you want to control your sugar intake as well, and you can always add things like it from that you have in your cabinets at home with either some fresh fruits or honey, etc. And lastly, we live in Wisconsin, so support America's Dairyland. If it's in your budget, Festival Foods offers a great option for local farmers to support them. Speaking to eggs, there's a lot of questions raised about whether someone should be buying white eggs versus brown eggs. It's important to know that they're not nutritionally different, and they both have naturally occurring omegas as well as choline. And as you can see, one egg offers several minerals that are listed. Some brands even offer enriched DHA types, which DHA is a type of omega-3 fatty acid, and it's essential. Essential just means that it's that our bodies require them, but we simply do not produce them, so we must obtain them from our diet. DHA-enriched eggs are maybe a great option for expecting mothers or nursing mothers, as their DHA recommendations are higher. It may also be a great option for individuals who simply do not consume regularly the fatty fish intake that's recommended. Eggs are an inexpensive protein source, and it's important to note that they are complete protein. This means that they contain all 9 essential amino acids. Buy eggs that align with your values, and most importantly, buy a carton that you can afford. Some individuals avoid packaged eggs that in styrofoam. Some people only buy free range, and some only buy cage-free, and others organic. These labels are not the same. So if you desire to make your purchase based on animal welfare, here's an excellent graph on the right there that clarifies the confusion about the various egg carton labels. Lastly, there is conflicting literature on whether or not egg consumption raises LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol. Although research seems to be a little inconclusive, be sure to eat eggs in moderation, as they are a high source of daily cholesterol. So keep in mind, it's most important to just best limit your saturated fat intake, as I and Sierra mentioned before. And again, make sure you're consuming them in moderation. If you care to learn more about egg cartons and their labels, I encourage you to do a quick Google search on egg labeling regulations.
Alrighty, so this is Maggie again, and I'm here for another pop quiz. So the question is, what type of milk is recommended for children over the age of 2? Is it 2% fat-free or whole milk? If you answered fat-free, you would be correct.
Hi everyone, this is Anna, and I'm going to be talking about the frozen section. The frozen aisle of the grocery store is typically where you're going to find quick, easy meals that can be microwaved or oven baked. These foods can include anything from French fries and ice cream to pizzas and other boxed meals. While it's okay to have these once in a while, it's important to try and limit dependence on frozen meals like these. I'll go into detail in the next slide about how to choose frozen meals and what to look for. Oftentimes, they'll have a much higher sodium content and preservative levels. You'll also find frozen fruit and vegetables in the frozen food aisle. These are great options for a quick side of veggies at a meal or blending frozen fruit for smoothies. Frozen produce will last much longer, and according to the FDA, they still offer the same vitamin and nutritional benefits. Like I mentioned before, frozen meals will typically have a higher sodium content, and this is to make sure that the shelf life is preserved and can be used long after purchase. When you're choosing frozen meals, you should read the food label and focus on the protein and sodium levels. The American Heart Association recommends limiting sodium to 2,300 milligrams per day. We should keep this in mind when choosing from the frozen section. We should also be looking for meals with higher protein content. On the right, I pulled an example of sweet and sour chicken. One of the choices is the brand Healthy Choice and the other is Marie Callender's. And as you can see, the Healthy Choice option is more than 150 calories less than the other one. If we look further into the label, we can see the sodium content is less than half of the Marie Callender's meal. And while the protein content is 5 grams lower per serving in the Healthy Choice option, I would still recommend choosing this one for all the other benefits.
Hi everyone, my name's Katrina, and I'll be sharing some information about the bakery section. So there are tons of options in the bakery section at stores, and looking through the bakery aisle is a great opportunity to look for some fresh bread. When looking at breads, there are certain types that are going to be healthy options, which will be high in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Some common options include sourdough, 100% whole wheat, oat bread, and healthy gluten-free bread. So how can you choose a healthy bread? It's important to look for breads that have 100% whole grain or sprouted flours listed as the first ingredient. Another indicator is bread that contains 3 to 5 grams of fiber and 3 to 6 grams of protein per slice. And lastly, checking that the bread doesn't have any added sweeteners. Bread that contains an excess and added sugars has been linked to chronic inflammation that may lead to illness, which includes heart disease. So, some information on allergies. The bakery aisle contains major food allergens such as milk or lactose, eggs, wheat or gluten, and peanuts or tree nuts. While many of these food items are found in the bakery aisle, there are still a handful of options to pick from if you're concerned about allergens. Some common grain substitutes for someone with a wheat allergy includes rice, quinoa, millet, flax seeds, amaranth, some oats, and more. So in short, there are many gluten-free options for bread at the grocery store. And lastly, when you're browsing the bakery section, it can be tempting to choose some sugary sweet options like muffins, cupcakes, and cookies. The store is set up, they typically set up the bakery section so that sweets will sell. So this means that they might be lit up on displays and will typically catch your eye easily. So while the bakery section has many tempting items to buy, there are still many healthful options.
So this is Erin, and now we are on to the checkout and front end section. And this is where stores tend to locate some tempting food items. So it's important to try and avoid the candy bars, little bags of chips, and other items that can be high in fat and sugars that are last-minute temptations for shoppers. So a good thing to remember is if it wasn't on your list and you don't need it, you can save money by not purchasing these items. This is also the area where you will use your coupons, and cashiers may not always ask you if you have any, so remember to hand them over once all of your items are scanned so that you can save as much money as possible. It's also a good idea to bring your own bags in order to reduce waste. You'll have more room in your trash can at home, and reusable bags tend to be easier to carry and are less likely to rip or break. You also can take advantage of express checkout lanes. They're typically reserved for people with fewer items in order to save shoppers time. So if you find yourself going on a smaller shopping trip, be sure to take advantage of this. And then finally, always return your cart to the proper area after loading your groceries into your car. Loose carts in the parking lot can be hazardous and can hit other cars, and they can even cause a car to hit them as well. So make sure to make the employee's job easier by returning them to the designated cart area.
It's Josh. I just wanted to give you a few tips when going into the wine and spirits section. First off, please don't drink if you're under the legal drinking age of 21. There are many research studies that show drinking underage can have adverse health effects later on and throughout someone's life. Assuming that you are 21, there are options in the wine and spirits section for just about anyone. First, try to limit mixing your spirits with soda, since this can add unwanted sugar and calories to your diet. Taking unmixed shots or mixing your alcohol with water are two options that will limit these unwanted calories. Beer can also have lots of calories, so try drinking the low-calorie options like seltzers and light beers. An average beer has about 150 calories, but some of the light beer options have as few as 50. For those looking for gluten-free options, there's the wine section, as all wines are gluten-free. And distilled alcohols like whiskey, scotch, brandy, and vodka are also gluten-free. And this is the case even if they're made with gluten-containing ingredients from the start. They're removed in the distillation process. However, you're going to want to watch out for liqueurs that have additives seen after the distillation, since gluten can be added back into the drink. Most beer does have gluten, but companies are quickly making gluten-free options. And an example of a gluten-free beer on the market currently is the Angry Orchard brand. And the recommended amount for alcohol is 2 drinks a day for men and 1 a day for women. A 12-ounce beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits is considered 1 drink. And there can be adverse effects to the liver and the rest of the body if you start to exceed your recommended amount, especially if you do so on a regular basis. So that kind of brings me to my last point. Please don't drink and drive, and always make sure you're in a safe environment when drinking. For example, don't go drinking on the bluffs where you could seriously injure yourself, and just drink responsibly.
Hi, this is Maggie again. So I'm going to talk to you quickly about how to ensure a successful grocery trip. So first, it can be really helpful if you start by cleaning out your refrigerator, freezer, and pantry. This is a very important first step to help you figure out what you need in stock, or what you have in stock and what you need to buy when at the store. This is also really helpful to do on a regular basis, as it allows for you to recognize the food items you may be throwing out on a regular basis. If this is the case, you may not want to continue buying these items. We want to reduce the amount of waste we produce as much as possible. Next, figure out how often you want to go grocery shopping. For some families, they may only have to go once every week, whereas other larger families may have to go 1 to 2 times a week in order to keep up with the demand. Once you have figured out what works best for you, you can move on to making the list of all the items you need. Check what is on sale this week. Not only will this help you save money, but it may also help give you some inspiration for new items to try. It can be really helpful to have a list on your phone. This way it doesn't get lost or accidentally thrown away. Most people almost always carry their phone on them wherever they go, so if they need to change something on their list, it is easily accessible to them at all times. Some people prefer to writing their list using a pen and paper, and that is okay too. Just find whatever works best for you. Try to plan out your meals ahead of time so you are only buying the ingredients or products you need. Again, this will help reduce the amount of waste being produced. When at the grocery store, try to stick to your list as much as possible. Although this can be difficult at times, not only does this help you plan ahead, it can also help you budget the amount of money you are spending each month on groceries. So last, we have a pop quiz. So true or false, it is cheaper to buy leaner meats. And if you said false, you would be correct. It is actually more expensive to buy these leaner meat products. So if you aren't sure where to begin when going to Festival Foods, they have a thing called Mealtime Mentors. I have attached a link below for those who may need a little more guidance as to how to prepare some of the foods we have previously talked about, or even looking at different recipes to try. The Mealtime Mentors are dietitians and nutritionists who are willing to answer any questions you may have. Also, located on their website, you will notice they have a few videos posted about the dietitians they have on staff. This way, you can get to know a little bit more about what they do and how they are there to help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us students at Viterbo University. Thank you so much.